conversation with your role prior to the one that you're in right now, when you were the Director of Organizational Excellence. I think that's when you and I first met. So
Yes. Yep.
Tell me about that role and what it was all about and some of the things that you were able to accomplish in that role.
Sure. Well, when I was asked to step into, this is really a very part-time role as Director of Organizational Excellence because I had a full-time job. I was running a large program with a lot of employees, and so I was very, very busy and immersed in a program that was heavily regulated. We did a lot of planning, and of course that was a lot of my background. So I was asked actually by the previous CEO a few years into my tenure if I would be interested in working on actually what was envisioned at that time was a customer service project. He knew that I had experience in customer service. My background had been in marketing early on in my career. And what was interesting is that when I started to look at it, and again, I was program director for another program, so this was just something I was doing at my at the request of the CEO, and it was something I really enjoyed. I came to the conclusion that really the issue was not that customer service was not getting delivered at a level that was considered exemplary or whatever, that it really had more to do with the fact that there didn't seem to be a clear direction to what it really looked like. What did good look like? What were we really trying to achieve? What were we trying to see? And in the process of that, what became evident was that the organization had been doing strategic planning for years and had done it really well, in particular with the previous CEO. But the strategic planning that would be the foundation, for example, of your organizational excellence work or your customer service work just didn't seem to have a strong foundation or connection to the work necessarily of the agency. It was more like something that was done just to say it was done. So as I looked at this, I made the recommendation that I really think what we need to do is we need to step back and we need to ask ourselves, what does good look like? I mean, to steal that phrase. And what started out as something about customer service began to evolve into something bigger than that, looking at organizational excellence. I didn't have what was necessary in terms of positional authority to make anything happen with any sense of permanency.
Sure. Can I reflect on a few things that
Sure.
you said? So one of the things that you said was you didn't feel that the agency accomplished a lot during that time. But when I look in from the outside, you accomplished some really important things that have stayed with the agency.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was during that period of time that you put together a very comprehensive strategic planning process in which you redefined the mission, the vision, the values of the agency. Mm-hmm. And those have stayed with the agency.
Yes.
You also defined a number of key goals that you call pillars.
Yep.
And those have stayed with the agency.
Yes.
I think where you maybe came up short of your aspirations at the time is moving further into the organization. Absolutely. In terms of action planning and initiatives. But during that period of time as this change agent, as you say, you laid really important foundational pieces that the agency still is using to this day.
That is true. That is true.
We've focused a lot in the time that I have been president of the college or interim president on our strategic plan. I have learned a lot through the Baldrige process, working with Kathy Letendre, about the importance of a good strategic plan. And I think too often plans end up on a shelf somewhere, gathering dust. And your plan needs to be organic, it needs to be interactive, and someone needs to follow it. And so we followed sort of the Baldrige model for a strategic plan, but we don't use qualitative words, we use quantitative words every time we can. And I've just appointed a vice president for strategic initiatives and resources to push the plan, to make sure, to follow up on the plan. My job doesn't allow me to spend as much time as I would like to now that the plan is in place. But the new vice president is going to be making sure that that we look at the plan and make sure it's getting done. We don't think we have to recreate the plan every year with a retreat or something of that nature, but we do need to make sure it's getting done.
Excellent. So that's great. So tell me about some of the key goals within the plan, if you're willing to share some of those, and how those goals, you said they're quantitative in nature, how those impact or will impact the long-term success of the college and the long-term success of students.
The College of St. Joseph is a wonderful, small college. We have about 200 undergraduates this year and another 50 or so graduate students. We need to grow. We cannot create a sustainable model with 200 students. We need to get further. And so we've taken our recruiting plan for new students and established it by market segments. And we said from this particular market segment, we're going to get X number of students. And so we've put that in very quantitative, very measurable, observable activities. I've said to people when they're working on their plan, I want to look out there and see that you've done it.
So I'm here today with Fred Kniffin, President and CEO of Porter Medical Center, part of the University of Vermont Health Network. And I've had the privilege of working with Fred and Porter over the past several years and watching Fred's transformation as a leader. And that's what I'm here to talk with him about today. So thanks, Fred, for taking the time to talk with me.
My pleasure.
And it's
Thank
been
you for all your help over the years.
absolutely.
Thank you.
It's been really fascinating
Yes.
to watch you. When I first met you, you had just been appointed to the senior leadership team.
Yes.
In your first role as a senior leader
Yes.
with a new team. So what was that like when you first became a senior leader, moving out of the clinical realm?
Okay. So that's a great question. So it was a huge change. And I had for 18 years been the ER director. And that actually turned into a half-time administrative job, half-time clinical job. So I thought, heck, I'm doing administration half-time. This should be like a tweak. I'll just turn the dial.
Right.
And it was totally different. And in retrospect, my ER director job was like administration light. Very light.
Sure.
Very,
Sure.
very light. You know, it was much busier than I thought it was going to be. Much more complicated than anything I had done before. I just remember, I mean, you work with our team, and it's interesting to have you here because you have seen us in snapshots, like
Right.
every 3 to 6 months over time. But I was missing meetings. I didn't have time to go to the bathroom. I was just chasing around, and it was a tough transition. I mean, I look back to school, and like high school to college wasn't a big deal for me.
Sure.
Junior high to high school was a huge change, and this felt like junior high to high school where I was just floundering. I could have used some mentoring. I think I would have. That was another thing. I mean, it was a new position.
Right.
Nobody had done it before me. It's a poorly defined position, the CMO position, as opposed to the CFO. If you're a CFO, your work is pretty clear.
Sure.
And it
Sure.
may be a little bit different place to place, but CMOs all over the place. So it was a tough transition. Yes.
Well, it's interesting because I saw you during that
Yeah,
phase,
yeah.
and I would describe you in two different ways.
Yeah.
When I first met you,
Yeah.
you were enthusiastic,
Yeah.
you were eager, you wanted to set a really high bar for the organization. I remember one of your first
Yeah.
conversations was about, well, yeah, employee engagement is important, but so is clinical quality and
Yeah.
patient satisfaction. And
Yeah.
you wanted to set a really high bar. And you were,
Those are still my 3 priorities.
yeah, that's interesting.
Yes, I think over time, and I don't know if it was at 9 months or a year or 2 years or 3 years, at some point it just became clear to me. We use the seat on the bus analogy,
Yes,
you know?
yes.
I was just in the wrong seat on the bus.
Right.
This job didn't fit me, and I knew it. You know, it's funny, my wife, she was the one who knew it loud and clear.
Okay.
I
Okay.
mean, she could just like, Fred, this isn't good for you. And yeah, I was in the wrong seat on the bus. But I didn't think there was a better seat for me. I just didn't think there was a seat at all.
Sure.
So what did you see? I mean,
So,
what, how would you describe me as a team member? I know it's a hard, I
That
won't
is a
put you on
hard
the spot,
question. No.
but on the spot, as someone who comes in, works with the team, sees how we interact, you know, doesn't really get the deep dive, but gets a sense of who's in the room, middle of the pack?
I didn't see you as a middle of the pack. I saw you as sort of an instigator. I don't know if that word has
Yeah.
negative connotation to
Yeah.
it, but you were asking good questions still, even when you were in that frustration phase.
Yeah.
You were still asking good questions.
Yeah.
You were still setting a high bar.
Okay.
You weren't kind of lowering your bar.
Okay.
But I wonder if that team member role and having that be a difficult fit for you has something to do with your clinical training, right? As an ER doc,
Yeah.
you're the
Yeah.
head of the decision making.
Yeah.
You don't rely on a team to make decisions.
No.
And so I'm wondering if this
Yeah.
CEO role is more in line with your training.
I've learned that this is a better seat on the bus for me. I've sort of spent a lot of time thinking about why that might be. You know, the things that I have found I didn't expect in this job that I really, really enjoy are the communication piece. I don't know why I didn't think communication was so important, but it just felt like the special sauce from the first week.
Excellent. So we've talked a lot about the organization and how that's evolved and transformed over time. I want to focus on you a little bit. You described to us, to me, your leadership approach and how you see that today and how you see how that has transformed and changed over time, if it has.
Yeah, my leadership style has definitely changed and matured over time. When I began in this role 21 years ago, I'd come out of a VP role where a lot of it was really very externally oriented and I'll call it businessy. I talk about, you know, market share and cost and returns on investment and stuff like that. And I remember realizing one day when I was with a group of the organization's leaders, down to the shift manager kind of level, that they had no idea what I was talking about and could have cared less. It's just not where they lived and what they did. It meant nothing to them. Their work was all about patient care, and I was speaking Greek, and they were speaking Chinese. It was just, I was not getting it. Those things are not unimportant, and that's the world I kind of came out of.
Right.
And I discovered that I needed to be, in some ways, more basic, but really connect more to the purpose of the organization and come back to the vision, come back to the mission of the organization as a touchstone in almost everything I talked about. That we're here for patients every day, all the time. And that's why. Even on the financial issues, you know, we do not exist to make money. As I've said many times, we do need to make money in order to take care of patients, but we don't take care of patients in order to make money. Kind of saying that in those ways and say, no, that we're always about that. And then quality will come, and then patient satisfaction will come, and then market share will come, growth will come. But it needed for me to change the way I communicated and thought about the organization and become less technically oriented and more vision creator and, you know, stay by that vision and hold fast to it. I think the other thing that we got better at, I got better at, was transparency. One of the things staff will say here now is, boy, we know what's going on. I mean, there's stuff all the time. It's like, even when they don't rank us as high as I'd like on some things, they always say, yeah, we always know what's going on. It's really transparent what's happening. That kind of communication I've gotten better at, the organization's gotten better at. It's really, 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 really important, and it takes a ton of energy. Sometimes I feel like I say the same thing 1,000 times, but that's often what it takes, is that idea of staying on message and kind of being consistent and tying back to purpose and tying back to purpose and tying back to purpose and mission and vision is really is something that I've gotten better at over time.
So you've been in this role about 5, you said going into your 6th season. As you kind of think back over that period of time, what are some of the accomplishments that you're most proud of?
Well, I already mentioned that we've been focusing on the guests, so we've went from a pretty low survey score up to pretty much a top score in the East. So for us, that's important. We've focused on also doing the same for our staff. So we've been doing more internal survey, guest or employee surveys, and
Sure.
trying to sit and do small focus groups, just like we do with our guests, trying to do them with our staff and say, what can we do to make this a better place, right? It's a ski resort, it should be fun, but like everything, you get lost in all the things, and how do we make it fun again? How do we make
Sure.
you want to be engaged and make sure you're delivering, a great experience for our guests? So we do a lot of different meetings where we say, how can we improve your department, right? What tools can we give you to provide better experience? So we've been doing a lot of that, a lot of feedback from guests and employees about how we improve the experience for everybody. So our employee surveys have been continuing to rise too during that period. So to me, I think when your employees are happy and your guests are happy, naturally good things happen to your rest of your business. So
Sure.
our revenue's been doing well. I think those things are important. The other big things we've done, we've made a lot of progress in summer, so that's probably one of
Yes.
the biggest. Our revenue in the last 5 years has grown 250% in summer.
Excellent.
So that's really been nice, and we've been able to grow our year-round employment. When we started getting back into summer and really laying out a whole plan for mountain biking and our adventure center, we had about 350 employees in the summer. This summer we were close to 600.
Wow.
So really that's helped the whole community. There's businesses now. Restaurants are opening year-round that used to close for the whole summer. You drive up the road and a lot of the places looked abandoned in the summer, and now people are, they're treating their properties better, and there's business here, and so I'm, pretty excited of what we've accomplished in that, and in the summer business. That's been really fun.
That's great. And over the years, I've really observed the tremendous impact that you've made in Rutland and across the county. And so I'm excited to talk about that with you today.
It's about collaboration.
Well, I think that is one of the themes that I've seen in your leadership approach is your collaboration. Your collaboration with all sorts of playmakers, people that make a difference. So let's start there. So let's talk about collaboration and how that encompasses your leadership approach.
Well, I think that we've all learned very quickly with the information age that we can't know everything. And so what I learned early in my career, I think, was that I didn't know much. It was better to be out and about and find people who do know the answers to questions and gather the right people together to get where you're going and create a strategy, whatever the problem is you're solving or whatever the project. One person can't get that project completed. So you need to make sure at the beginning of your thought pattern or your process that you find the right players, those that will provide you with the information that you need to get to the end of the day and get your project complete. Whether that's writing a grant, whether that's opening a makerspace, whether that's working with Reddick and Castleton jointly on projects, you need to have a clear vision and then have the right people at the table.
Excellent, excellent. I mean, when I look at the impact you've made just over the past few years, I see that collaboration. It's so evident to me. And at the same time that you're taking that collaborative approach, to me, you take a very humble approach in your leadership as well. You're not out there taking credit. You're just kind of making things happen. And I think, to me, that's a sign of a really great leader.
Well, I think there are leaders that, there are many different types of leaders. Sometimes organizations need that leader that will be the head of the organization, will be the voice and face of the organization. Then there are leaders that don't need to be right out front, that are working behind the scenes to get things done. Hopefully that's what we do here at Reddick and Castleton, that we're working behind the scenes to get things done. An example of that is that Castleton University and Rutland Economic Development Corporation understand that our region will grow if both organizations grow. So if Rutland City and Rutland County are successful, so too will be Castleton University.